Every chemical in American agriculture is designed to destroy this weed, yet nothing stops it. Palmer amaranth shrugs off the world's strongest herbicide, grows 3 inches a day, and shatters million-dollar harvesters. But here is the twist. It packs more protein than soy, grows faster than corn, and was prized as divine food by the Aztec Empire. So, why has the industry spent $3 billion a year trying to wipe out a plant that could outperform hay, corn, and soy combined? The real crisis is only beginning. Palmer amaranth doesn't just survive herbicides, it thrives on the battlefield. In fields across the Midwest and South, farmers watch as this weed rockets up 3 inches a day, overtaking soybeans and cotton before the crop can even set seed. Extension agents report stems thicker than a baseball bat, tough enough to snap the steel knives of a combine harvester. One Missouri soybean grower racked up $5,000 in repairs after his header blades sheared off on 7-foot-tall stalks. By harvest time, fields meant for profit are littered with broken machinery and towering red plants, each one a monument to resistance. The science behind this nightmare is as relentless as the weed itself. Palmer amaranth evolved by duplicating a single gene, EPSPS, over and over, giving it 100-fold resistance to glyphosate, the world's most widely used herbicide. The first cases surfaced in Georgia cotton fields in the early 2000s, but it didn't stop there. Within 2 years, 5 chemical giants scrambled to register new herbicides. Today, Palmer amaranth infests more than 20 million acres, and the annual cost of trying to kill it has soared past $3 billion. For farmers, the frustration is personal. Every pass with the sprayer, every broken blade, every patch of ruined crop is a reminder that the rules have changed. Glyphosate, once the silver bullet, is now just another failed promise. Biologists in university labs call it a miracle of evolution. Farmers have a different name, a plague. The question isn't just how to stop it, but why this weed, of all plants, refuses to die. Corn, soy, and hay have ruled American fields for generations, but none can match what hides inside the so-called weed. Grain amaranth, a close cousin to Palmer amaranth, packs a nutritional punch that rewrites the scoreboard. While corn fills silos with calories and little else, amaranth grain delivers a complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids, the same profile that nutritionists use to judge the world's best foods. The Food and Agriculture Organization ranks amaranth alongside milk and eggs for protein quality. Soybeans, the gold standard for plant protein, need heavy processing to be edible. Amaranth seed, on the other hand, can be eaten raw, cooked, or popped like tiny golden kernels. There is no need for chemical treatment or industrial processing. A closer look at the leaves tells a similar story. On a dry weight basis, amaranth leaves reach up to 25% protein, matching or beating alfalfa, the backbone of cattle feed in the Midwest. That means the plant farmers fight to keep out of their fields could actually feed their herds better than the crops they plant on purpose. University extension analyses confirm these numbers. The leaves are rich in vitamins A, C, and K, plus minerals like calcium and iron. For humans, the seeds are gluten-free, easy to digest, and naturally high in lysine, a rare amino acid missing from corn and wheat, but essential for growth and repair. Nutrition scientists point to amaranth as a rare triple threat, a grain with more protein than wheat, a leaf that outperforms hay, and a seed that can be eaten straight from the plant. In the world of crops, it is a 3-in-1 miracle, yet it is still called a weed. That raises a simple question. If it beats the big three at their own game, why aren't we planting it everywhere? Plants do not just compete on size or speed, they compete on how they turn sunlight into food. Most crops in America, soybeans, wheat, alfalfa, use a process called C3 photosynthesis. It is slow, thirsty, and it struggles when the heat turns up or the rain turns off. But amaranth, like corn, runs on a different engine, C4 photosynthesis. In simple terms, C4 plants are built for efficiency. They capture carbon dioxide and lock it away before the sun can waste it, squeezing more sugar out of every drop of water. That means in a Kansas state drought trial, amaranth produced the same amount of green matter as corn using only half the water. When fields dry out and irrigation costs soar, C3 crops wilt. Amaranth keeps growing, sometimes outpacing corn by a foot or more, even in the worst summer heat. Biologists at Kansas State and Colorado State measured this advantage. In side-by-side plots, amaranth's leaves stayed lush and green while neighboring soybeans turned yellow and brittle. The difference is not just academic. On dryland acres where a single inch of rain can decide a farmer's profit or loss, amaranth's C4 pathway is a survival trait. It does not just tolerate drought, it thrives in it, pushing out 20 to 30 tons of biomass per hectare when corn can barely manage 15. The physiology literature calls amaranth a supercharged solar engine. That is why some researchers see it as a crop for the future, a plant with the genetic tools to handle a hotter, drier world. But there is a catch. The same biology that makes amaranth drought-proof also makes it hard to harvest with modern machinery. And that is where the story gets complicated. Harvest season puts every crop to the test, but amaranth plays by different rules. Modern combines are built for crops that hold their seeds tight until the steel hits. Corn, wheat, and soy have been bred for decades to stay intact, making them easy to scoop up in a single pass. Amaranth refuses to cooperate. As soon as its seeds ripen, they drop, thousands at a time, scattering before any machine can catch them. This trait, called shattering, is a survival strategy from the wild. For the plant, it is a guarantee that its offspring will spread far and wide. For the farmer, it is a disaster. The combine rolls through, but the seeds are already on the ground, lost to the harvest, and ready to sprout as weeds the next year. Agricultural engineers have tried to work around the problem. Some have experimented with earlier harvests or gentler threshing, but the results are the same. Too many seeds slip through the cracks. In side-by-side trials, amaranth can lose up to 90% of its seed before the combine even arrives. That is a non-starter for large-scale farming, where every bushel counts and every lost seed is money out the door. Grain breeders have spent years trying to develop non-shattering varieties, but progress is slow. The genes that make amaranth a survivor in the wild are the same ones that make it a nightmare for mechanized agriculture. The problem is not just biology, it is a clash between nature's design and the demands of industrial farming. Machinery demands uniformity and control. Amaranth offers abundance, but on its own terms. Until the shatter problem is solved, this plant will remain an outlier, too wild for the combine, too independent for the system. Feed costs don't just squeeze profits, they shape the very crops that fill American fields. On a standard corn-based diet, both pigs and chickens grow slower and fall sick unless farmers buy synthetic lysine, a single amino acid missing from corn and wheat. The price of this supplement has climbed to nearly $2 per kilogram, turning lysine into a billion-dollar business for chemical giants like Cargill and Ajinomoto. Each year, the U.S. livestock industry spends over $1 billion just to patch this gap, blending powdered lysine into feed rations by the ton. But amaranth rewrites this equation. Its grain naturally contains 4 times the lysine of corn, enough to meet the needs of both animals and humans without any additive. Feed formulation studies from Kansas State and UC Davis show that swapping in amaranth grain can eliminate the need for synthetic lysine entirely. For a mid-sized hog operation, that's a savings of tens of thousands of dollars per year, with no change in animal growth or health. Economists point out that this isn't just a nutritional bonus, it's a direct challenge to the feed supplement industry. Every acre of amaranth planted is an acre that doesn't need a chemical fix. In a world where margins are razor thin and every input counts, the numbers make a clear case. The so-called weed that big agriculture fights to destroy could actually be the key to breaking the cycle of costly supplements and synthetic feed. A single corn stalk puts out 2 ears, maybe 800 seeds if you count every kernel. Amaranth does not play by those rules. In a Kansas state seed trial, one plant dropped 500,000 seeds before the combine ever touched it. That is not a typo. The seeds were scattered across the soil like a living lottery. Next spring, each of those seeds is ready to become another towering, unkillable weed. The math is exponential. One plant becomes a field becomes a county, and before long, seed companies are staring at a nightmare they cannot patent or control. For agribusiness, this is not just a management headache, it is a business threat. Corn and soy are built on a model where every seed is bought, sold, and tracked. Amaranth rewrites the rules. When a farmer can save their own seed, when nature hands out a 500,000% return on a single investment, the logic of the seed market collapses. There is no room for annual contracts, no leverage for licensing, no way to lock down a plant that multiplies itself for free. Seed policy analysts warn that if amaranth ever gained a foothold as a crop, the entire economics of patented seed would unravel. Weed scientists shake their heads at the numbers, calling it the ultimate open-source food. In a world where control is everything, a plant that gives away its future at this scale is seen less as a gift and more as a threat. On a cattle ranch outside Manhattan, Kansas, a row of forage wagons lines up for the morning cut. The crop is not corn or alfalfa, it is amaranth, hauled straight from the field and chopped while green. Ranchers call this green chop method a game changer. Instead of fighting the plant, they turn it into silage, whole stalks, leaves, and seed heads packed tight, then left to ferment for 45 days. The result is a sweet-smelling feed with a relative feed value above 130, higher than oat hay, and well past the threshold for premium forage. Kansas State University trials back up the results. Cattle fed a ration with 30% amaranth silage put on an extra 0.8 pounds per day compared to those on standard sorghum. Feed conversion jumped by 15%, while methane dropped, a rare win for both profit and the environment. Extension nutritionists track rumen pH and find it stays stable, with no sign of digestive trouble. The workflow is straightforward: mow, chop, pack, and wait. There is no need for a combine or complicated seed cleaning. One Nebraska rancher reports cutting feed costs by 1/5 after switching to amaranth silage. For operations squeezed by drought and high grain prices, the numbers are hard to ignore. The so-called weed, when handled right, outperforms the crops designed to replace it. In 1996, the first genetically modified soybeans rolled out across American farms, engineered to survive Roundup, the flagship herbicide from Monsanto. The promise was simple: spray the field, kill every weed, and leave the crop untouched. Within a decade, over 90% of U.S. soybeans carried this patented trait. Seed companies consolidated, and 4 firms controlled more than half the global market. Licensing agreements locked farmers into annual seed contracts, with legal teams ready to chase down any attempt to save or replant last year's crop. Charts from ag policy analysts trace this consolidation, showing a landscape where innovation means stacking more chemical traits, not rethinking the system. But nature doesn't sign contracts. While scientists in St. Louis tweaked genes in the lab, Palmer amaranth was quietly evolving in the wild. Instead of a single engineered trait, it duplicated the EPSPS gene hundreds of times, creating a natural resistance that no patent could touch. By 2005, fields once cleared by glyphosate were overrun with weeds that shrugged off the spray. The irony is hard to ignore. Billions were spent to build a chemical fortress, only for a wild plant to breach the walls with nothing but evolutionary speed. While corporate boardrooms focused on defending market share, the real story played out in the soil. The weed that couldn't be killed by design had outsmarted the very tools meant to control it. The result? A system locked into a cycle of stronger chemicals, pricier seeds, and dwindling returns, all while the so-called devil's weed flourished, immune to both law and ledger. In the high mesas of the Southwest, red amaranth still colors Hopi cornbread, a practice older than the first Spanish footprints on this soil. The stems and seeds, boiled to a deep crimson, yield a dye rich in betalain, antioxidants that rival those found in beets. For the Hopi, The color is more than decoration. It carries the memory of earth and blood, woven into ceremonies that have survived centuries of change. Ethnobotanists tracing these traditions find living links to pre-contact times, when amaranth was food, medicine, and symbol all at once. Across the continent, the story turned darker. In the heart of the Aztec Empire, amaranth was more valuable than gold. Tributes to Tenochtitlan filled storehouses with grain, and every year, priests and villagers shaped the seeds with honey and blood into sacred figures called tzoali, consumed in rituals that echoed communion. Spanish chroniclers arriving in the wake of Cortés recoiled at what they saw. To them, these ceremonies mocked the Eucharist, turning a staple crop into a symbol of resistance and heresy. No signed decree from 1519 survives, but the record is clear. Spanish priests and officials condemned amaranth as a devil's weed. Ecclesiastical edicts ordered fields burned and growers punished, sometimes by flogging, sometimes by fines, always with the threat of harsher reprisals. By the end of the 16th century, amaranth vanished from markets and fields, its cultivation forced underground. The plant that once fed empires became a target for erasure, not because of its taste, but because of its power to bind a people together. Yet in Hopi villages and scattered gardens, the red dye persists, a quiet act of memory, defying centuries of suppression. While agribusiness fights to erase amaranth, drought and rising feed costs are rewriting the rules. The world's hungriest regions now trial this so-called weed as a climate-resilient crop. Nature's open-source abundance threatens an industry built on scarcity. The question isn't if we can domesticate amaranth, but whether we'll allow profit to keep out what survival demands. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below.